Section 1. Video 11. Copying and merging. 1. We will be covering the array methods slice and concat, for copying arrays and merging arrays, respectively. 2. We will talk about shallow copying, and what it means for arrays with elements which are primitive values, versus elements which are objects. 3. We will use the Object.assign method for copying and merging objects. 4. We will introduce the new spread syntax, and how it can simplify copying and merging both arrays and objects. If you want to copy an array, you can use the slice method. The slice method has been available since JavaScript ES6. It returns a shallow copy of a portion of an array, or the entire array, into a new array. It does not modify the original array. For example, let's start with a simple array of numbers. We will use the slice method to make a copy. As no arguments are supplied to the slice method, it makes a copy of the entire original array. We will now modify the copy, by pushing the number 4 onto the end of the array. We will print the modified copy to the console. And, we will also print the original array. You can see in the console that the modified copy is a new array, while the original array is unchanged. Note that slice returns a shallow copy of the elements from the original array. If an element in the array is a primitive value, such as a string, number, or Boolean value, then slice copies the value into the new array. Changes to the string, number, or Boolean values in one array, do not affect the other array. If an element in the array is an object of any type, then slice copies the object reference, not the actual object, into the new array. Both the original and new copied arrays refer to the same object. If a referenced object changes, the changes are visible to both the copied and original arrays. That is why we refer to it as shallow copying. If you want to merge two arrays, then you can use the concat method. The concat method has been available since JavaScript ES6. The concat method returns a shallow copy that contains copies of the same elements combined from the original arrays. This method does not change the existing arrays, but instead returns a new array. For example, let's start with two simple arrays of numbers. We will use the concat method, called on the first array, passing the second array as its argument. We will print the merged array, and the original arrays, to the console. You can see in the console that the merged array is a new array, while the original arrays are unchanged. We will now introduce spread syntax for array copying. The array literal spread syntax has been available since JavaScript ES6. You can make a shallow copy of an array using spread syntax, which has the same effect as using the slice method. Let's comment out lines 4 and 5. You can create a new shallow copy of the original array. Specify the array literal square brackets, then inside, put 3 dots, followed by the original array name. Think of it like using the 3 dots to spread the elements of the original array into a new array literal. You can see the copy of the original array in the console. Now, if we had wanted to add the number 4 to the end of the array, as we did previously, then all we need to do is add the number 4 after the spread out array, after a comma. View the effect in the console. Let's use the spread syntax to merge arrays. Comment out line 16. We will perform the merge with spread syntax. We first specify the array literal square brackets. Then, we spread the contents of the first array. then a comma. And then, we spread the contents of the second array. We can see the new merged array, and the unchanged original arrays. Let's clear the code file before discussing copying objects. Now, let's make a shallow copy of an object. We will use the Object.assign method to make a copy of an object. This method has been available since JavaScript ES6. Let's start with a simple object with two properties and values. Now to get a shallow copy. The Object.assign method takes the target object as its first argument, and the source object as its second argument. As the first argument, specify an empty object as the target object to copy into, followed by our original source object as the second argument to copy from. Now, we can modify the copy, for example, by setting the key x to the value 43. Let's print out the modified copy and original objects to the console. You can see in the console that the copied object is a new array with a modified value for its key x. We can also merge two objects into a new object with Object.assign. We will create two simple objects to start with. Now, we will create the merged object. Call the method, and as its first argument, we will specify the target object to be a new empty object. The method can take a variadic number of arguments after the first target object argument, all of which represent source objects. So, we will pass the first and second objects as the second and third arguments respectively. Now, we will print the new merged object, and the original objects, to the console. We will now show you that you can use spread syntax on object literals, instead of Object.assign, to shallow copy and shallow merge objects. Object literal spread syntax has been available since JavaScript ES7. Comment out lines 4 and 5. We will create a new copy of the original object. Write an object literal. Spread the contents of our original object into it. This is all we need to do in order to create a new shallow copy of the original object. Now, to add the modification to the key x, as we did before, add a comma after the spread out original object. And then add the key x, and its modified value of 43. That's how simple it is using the object literal spread syntax. Let's see it in the browser. There has been no change to the output, so the object literal spread syntax is equivalent. Finally, let's use the spread syntax to merge objects. Comment out line 16. Add the object literal curly braces. Spread the first object, comma. Then spread the second object. Check it in the console. Everything works as before. To summarize, we covered the array methods slice and concat, for copying arrays and merging arrays, respectively. We talked about shallow copying, and what it means for arrays with elements which are primitive values, versus elements which are objects. We used the Object.assign method for copying and merging objects. And, we introduced the new spread syntax, and talked about how it can simplify copying and merging both arrays and objects. In the next video, we will talk about destructuring assignment in JavaScript ES6.